Hi guys. I know it's been a minute. It's been pretty out of control for the past couple of months. To give you an idea of what exactly I've been up to, there is this group that I don't remember if I've mentioned before. I may have in passing. It's disability rights. Grassroots group that goes out and commits civil disobedience for disability rights issues to make a better world for all kinds of people with disabilities. And it's hard for me to even explain my feelings about this group, because there's so much feeling and there's so many feelings. To start it off, I guess I'll say that this group is filled with some of the best humans I've ever met. And over the last 3 years that I've been with them, I've grown to love each one of them. And I consider each member a family member. To say that we do good work is such an understatement that I struggle to find the words to explain how proud I am that I'm able to go out so often and fight with this group. And we see real life-changing results. We get real results. And today I had intended to talk solely about this group and how wonderful it was, but there are other things that are just as pressing. And to give you an idea of why I haven't made a video in a minute, well, first of all, let's start with the never-ending battle with keeping our Medicaid, our life, our insurance, to put it very, very small. We spent the entire summer fighting to keep our Medicaid intact, to stop any kind of cuts to it. And just when we think that the battle was won and we can breathe for a second, we were hit with another obstacle, another bill, another change that ended up being worse every single time. I don't know how they managed to figure out something that was worse than the previous incarnation, but they did. I believe that what we were doing was important. I believe that what we do is important. And I believe that we will win and continue to win every single time. It's just so exhausting to know that in this climate, in this society, disabled lives are not valued. They're just not. And I could speak broadly and say that minorities in general are not valued, and that would be true. But to speak a little more narrow at this moment, I am very much about disability rights and disability pride, and not feeling like you're not worth it because you're disabled. I struggled with that for a lot of years. I struggled to find any kind of self-worth because I couldn't walk. I had to use crutches and braces, and it made me different. And when you're growing up in a small place, any kind of difference you have is recognized and you're teased for it. I was teased quite a bit for being in a wheelchair. It got really nasty during high school to the point where my life was threatened. And shortly after, my parents decided to move me to Florida. But these things do happen. Kids can be really mean. And so I vowed that when I got this position I'm in, that I would do my very best to make sure that my siblings in this community, in this fight, wouldn't feel the way that I felt, at least when they were around me. I strongly believe that it starts with one person just being kind to another person. But I digress. Back to the issue. So after fighting for our Medicaid, which would have killed millions of people that they not had access or services, then we had a little bit of a reprieve, a little bit of a breather. Then we found out that there were all kinds of bills coming out that would attack different aspects of our life. There would be cuts to social programs that help with food and housing and transportation, and of all things, HEAP. And if you're unaware, HEAP is just what helps keep heat for low-income persons. And when you live in the north, having heat inside is so important. So the fact that they wanted to take away HEAP from people is diabolical. After that, they had come out with HR 620, which I'll let you do a little bit of research. The name sounds really nice. But what it, in a nutshell, says is that you're able to submit complaints to restaurants or movie theaters or whatever the place is. While you can submit those complaints against them if there's an ADA violation, not only do you have to cite the specific violation in detail in writing, but you also have to give the business owner a time period for which that they can fix the issue, which can be about 180 days, 6 months. If you need to get into a facility or a building that isn't accessible, say you're a chair user, you need to get into this place, but they don't have a ramp. They have steps, and there's a couple of steps. Now, if they have just simply looked into fixing the issue, they'd find that they could probably find a ramp for $500 or less. And if they're a business worth their salt, that's not going to be a huge amount of money. They could pay that back fairly quickly. But instead, they choose not to. So now they have 180 days to do anything about it. 180 days that now you can't get into this building. And bluntly and plainly, that's discrimination. But the law is making it okay, which is worse, which is more despicable, which is disgusting. There are no other protected classes that would be okay with this. Where would you be able to go and say you can't come into my restaurant because you're in the LGBTQIA community? There would be so much public outrage, and yet every time this story is reported in the news, the disabled people are the ones that are upset. All I've seen is excuses on the side of the businesses. Oh, it must be so hard for them. Oh, it must be so difficult. I don't understand why people can't just wait. Those poor business owners that have to spend all this money. This bill limits my access to the community. It limits all of our access to the community. And anything that takes away access and freedom from someone is wrong. It's just wrong. It's morally wrong. Here we are. Why do I have to explain to you why you should care about another human being? Shouldn't that be the default? I think it would be fair to say that I am furious. So those are the fights that we've had recently. But that's not all. There's this thing called electronic verification that affects people with attendance services. I have attendance services. I have a person who comes in and assists me daily for things that I am unable to do on my own, like reaching high up things, so getting clothes out of my stackable washer and dryer, things like that. And they do a couple of other things. And if I did not have access to them, I wouldn't be able to live. I wouldn't be able to independently live my life. So it's kind of crucial. And electronic verification says that you have to check in, your attendants have to check in. And in some states, it's a home phone that you have to check in through. Well, with my job, I travel a lot, so a home phone isn't exactly going to work for me. Electronic verification limits the freedom of others, and it forces them to stay home. It forces them to live a life determined for them. And I can't abide by that, nor should anyone. We should all have the freedom to live our lives the way we choose. And what I've been doing for the past few years is fighting for legislation called the Disability Integration Act. And what it says very bluntly is that people with disabilities have a right to live in the community as they choose. Because as it stands, when you're at risk, and I say at risk of going into a facility, and then you go into a facility, it's more profitable for the facilities if you stay there. So while there are community services that people could get to stay in their own homes, there's attendant services, there's all kinds of things. Most people don't hear about them because they only hear about getting services in the nursing facility. When all we're asking to do is to take that money that's been set aside for services in the nursing facility and putting some money into community services. All we're asking to do is to get people out of the nursing facility and into their own homes with the proper supports. And I'm not discounting the fact that maybe some people actually do like to live in the facility. This bill would help those that don't like living in this facility, that want to live in the community, live near their family, be able to go out whenever they want to, eat whenever they want to, because these are liberties and freedoms that are taken from them in the nursing facilities, institutions. I have a friend who's in his 30s who has a curfew to go back to the facility, to the nursing facility. He's in his 30s and he's in nursing facility. This legislation would help my friend move out into the community and live the life that he wants to choose in the fashion he chooses. And it frustrates me that this isn't just a no-brainer, that this doesn't just happen, that this isn't something that goes onto a legislator's desk and they go, oh, well, duh, of course we're going to do that. Why wouldn't we do that? We don't do that because the nursing facilities are fighting so hard to keep people in. And although we've heard no actual good reason as to why this bill shouldn't be passed, it hasn't been passed yet. You want to take a look? S910. Look to see if your legislator's on there. Check out the House bill, see if your legislator is on there. If they're not, call their office and ask them why. They're welcome to contact me if they want to talk about it. I'm here for them. But this is what I've been doing. This is what we do. I've been in DC so many times in the past year that I feel like I should live there at this point. I have been on that hill in DC talking to congresspersons, talking to senators, trying to bend their ear to get them to understand that we just want our freedom. That's all. We're not, we're not confusing. This is not a confusing ask. Give us our freedom and give us the ability to be able to live in the community. That's it. We can't get there by stripping rights from the ADA and taking money out of programs to keep people alive. That's not how we do it. If you're interested in learning more about this group, I will leave a link in the doodad and check it out, see if there's a chapter in your state. And if there is and you are interested in getting more information, contact them. I know these people. They'd be happy to talk to you. But here's some things you can do. Start by going and figuring out who your legislators are. Figure out who your assembly people are, who your mayor is, who your city council is, who your state senators and anyone who represents your area. Talk to them. Go to their offices, make an appointment. Talk to them about why your community isn't more accessible and know how you can make it more accessible. We just got an ordinance in my city that says that any public TV in a restaurant or store or any public area, if the TV's on, it must have captions on. And that is such a dumb moment. I don't know why we don't have this all over. Start there. I live in one of the biggest deaf communities. I don't know why this took so much effort and so long to get where we are, to get this ordinance. But I'm really glad. I'm really glad that my city did this and cooperated. So See what kind of access. Look all around your community. Look at the stores. Look at the entrances. Look at the bathrooms and think, if I had a disability, would I be okay getting in here? Would I be okay shopping here? Would I have to rely on another person to do that? And if it's just as simple as just having some kind of descriptor, like maybe Braille or captions, ask the stores why they aren't doing that. If it's that you wouldn't be able to get a wheelchair through the front door or into the bathroom, ask the stores why they don't do that. Second, we start asking questions and questioning what the way we do things. That's when change starts. And that's what is going on, thankfully, right now with those students in Florida. And on that topic, I'm really upset about this thing in Florida. I'm also really upset about every other horrific tragedy that has happened in this country, because I keep asking the same question over and over and over again. And finally, it's been acknowledged. What happens if you're in a school that is being shot up or attacked in some way and you're disabled? What is your school going to do about it? Is there a policy in place? Is there a plan? I just had to read the most heartbreaking status on Facebook by a teacher who had to explain to her students that because she's physically disabled in a wheelchair, that she wouldn't be able to protect them and they should leave her. And they told her, no, we will carry you. Normally, I would ignore that as a fluff piece. And normally, I would just roll my eyes. But this is a question that I have had since I've been in school. If something truly happened, what would I do? And every single time that I asked someone about it, they would tell me, well, if there's a fire or a hurricane or something, don't use the elevator. And even though there were multiple floors to my school, the only thing they could tell me was stay in the stairwell and don't use the elevator. And I'm so angry about it because I've been out of school for about 15 years. Almost 15. I won't make myself older than I am. But in all that time, and I do check in with my high school every so often, in all of that time, in almost 15 years, in over a decade, they haven't figured out one procedure that would actually save someone's life.